One of the major themes of the papacy of Pope Francis is the joy of the gospel. He wants us to look at everything from the angle of the gospel, because according to him, the gospel is beautiful and the gospel is good news. And if you want to rejoice in that, and if you want to share that joy, then all of us, we must become evangelizers. And that is the mind of Pope Francis. And he says that is the mind of God. That proclamation should be out into the whole world, and everybody should enjoy that. There are so many ways we can actually spread the gospel. And Philip showed us in a very simple way today how that can be done in the life of the man we celebrate, Nathanael, St.Bartolomew. Now, when Philip had already known Christ, he had already enjoyed that beautiful message. He wanted to share it. And so he went to Nathanael and he told Nathanael about that in a very simple way. And what transpired between them is actually what happens when we try to take faith to people. When we try to tell people about God, they become skeptical, they become cynical. It is the same thing Nathanael did. He said, can anything good come from that place? But then, because he still wanted to prove it, he decided to go, to be practical about the faith. And so he decided to follow Philip, to see Christ. But Christ is God, he knows everything. And he saw Nathanael even while he was still there under the fig tree. And he told Nathanael that. Now, just for a few seconds now, has anybody ever tried to, tell us things about ourselves in a very deep way like that? And when they tell us deep things, how do we see them? Knowing our good and then also understanding our weakness. Do we allow those things to build us up, or do we feel threatened by them? Because that is how Christ looks at us. He sees us in every form, the good and the bad, just as he saw Nathanael today. When Nathanael approached him, he had already made those cynical statements, and he had been skeptical also about Christ, even about him being the Messiah. But Jesus saw something other than that. He saw the goodness of Nathanael, and he wanted to tap into that, to make use of him, even in his weakness, to bring this gospel to the people. And so the good thing he saw in Nathanael, he said, here is an Israelite who deserves the name incapable of deceit. That was, something like a tribute. And that is how God sees every good things that we do. He wants those good things to be blown out so that he can use that to touch so many other lives. And that is exactly what he did with Bartholomew. Now, for us, there are times when we have been deceivers, of the gospel, of the good news, like Nathanael, or the times that we have been deceived also. But we must know that coming together this way every time is because we have been won over by the grace of God. And just like Nathanael, it's not because we are too wonderful, it's just simply the grace of God, the gift of God. So we must see ourselves through the eyes of Nathanael. Because there are times when we have been self-righteous like himself too. And there are times too that we have been cynical too, and we have tried to dismiss the gospel, or maybe the good things, the good news of God in our lives, even in the lives of people, because we find it very difficult. It doesn't fit the picture of the Messiah or Christ in our head. But whichever way, just as God called Bartholomew, He's calling each and every one of us too. We might not be able, like Philip, or at the end of the day, Bartholomew, to bring everybody to the faith of Christ. We might not have the opportunity of being at the pulpit, or maybe on a pedestal to talk to people. But we can do it in a very special way also, just as Philip did it, talking about the goodness of God in our lives, and then things that have happened to us, unexpected things, mysterious things that we have received through the joy of the gospel. It was just a simple miracle that turned the life of Bartholomew around. Just that statement from Philip. And that might just be the only thing we need to change the people around us and eventually the world at large. St. Bartholomew's remains was buried somewhere in Rome in a church called St. Bartolomew. Let us offer our prayers today and pray through him that the gospel of Christ will continue to reign all over the world.